You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, though, and joining us now, Corey Lewandowski, author, 2 best-selling books, Let Trump Be Trump and Trump's Enemies. You can get them on Amazon or your favorite bookstore. Also, campaign manager, Trump for President, and a confidant of the president. They have lunch several times a month privately. The president still very much seeks Corey Lewandowski's advice on many, many areas, as he was there with him from the beginning. He turned the lights on in the campaign, day one, January 2nd, 2015, and he's joining us now. Hey, Corey, great to have you, man.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Never better, Corey, never better. The president rolling out a very bold plan Thursday, says had enough. After he sees videos of 1,000 migrants coming from Guatemala getting dropped off at a border point, bum rushing the border at 4 a.m. and coming over, absolutely no help from Mexico. And the president says, look, we just can't go on this way. We're not going to have a country. I'm done. We have 300,000 people a month basically coming into the United States. We're only catching 100 of them, 200. We have no idea where they're going, can't find them in the interior. And he says, I'm going to now give Mexico an opportunity to help us. And if they don't, they're going to get hit with tariffs. Of course, the Democrats coming out saying that it's a tax on the American consumer and it's going to put farmers out of business and it's going to cause economic Armageddon. What say you?
John, the question is, when do we start fighting for America again? When do we start putting America first? When do we determine, as the greatest country in the history of the planet, that we're going to take care of our people first? And, you know, John, you and I have had this conversation on so many different occasions where the president has said, I wasn't elected leader of Mexico or Great Britain or Germany. I was elected to protect the people of this country, and he is doing everything in his power to do that, which is putting our friends and our adversaries on notice that we're going to put America first. It doesn't mean America alone, but what it does mean is, as a sovereign nation, we have the right to make sure that we know who's coming across our borders, that they're going to do so legally, and if you are either implicit or complicit in allowing people to come through your country, to come into the United States, there are repercussions for that. And what we've seen all of a sudden is the government of Mexico sending negotiators here because they realize Donald Trump is not playing games, and they know what that tariff is going to do to them. They've had the opportunity to fix this for 30 years, but they always negotiated with stupid politicians, and now it's different. So now we see some action on behalf of the government of Mexico to potentially stop people from using their country as a superhighway to get to the United States. It's the right thing, and if they don't step up and join in our fight to stop the illegal immigration from coming through their country, then there will be repercussions, and the American people deserve that.
And, Corey, what you mentioned really is the telltale here. As soon as the president announced the tariffs based on what he did with Canada and Mexico the first time with NAFTA and with China, they sent a group of Mexican diplomats to Washington the next day. Why did they do that?
Well, because they are afraid, because they know what happens if this president implements another 5% tariff moving forward. And you heard Mick Mulvaney on Sunday say the president is deadly serious. Mm-hmm. And they also understand that the USMCA, which is the trade deal which used to be referred to as NAFTA, is hanging on the balance right now. Mexico needs it more than the United States needs it. We are the hottest economy in the world. We continue to grow. We've got unbelievably low unemployment. Just the numbers came out in Pennsylvania again on yesterday, 3.6% unemployment. It's amazing. I talked to the governor of South Carolina, 1.9% unemployment in the state of South Carolina. Our economy is booming. And those countries who want to be doing business with us to take advantage of our economy in a positive sense need to understand there are repercussions by not playing fair. And so the president has laid down the gauntlet. The people of Mexico, the government now understands how serious he is. And I believe that they will do the right thing and step up and start to use their resources to prevent their country from simply being a pass-through from South America to allow individuals to come into the United States unvetted, unknown who they are, and not applying properly.
And even that, you know, the Trump administration the other day, Corey, as you know, implementing the social media vetting plan that anybody that's applying for a visa now, they have to give all their social media accounts, and that's got to be vetted because remember it was the shooting in, where was it, Santa Barbara in California, I remember on the West Coast there where people had come in on visas, they had all kinds of anti-American things posted on their various social media accounts that never got looked at. We had the horrific shooting there. So that's just another example of what the Trump administration is attempting to do. Okay, now the Democrats, Corey, they're going to hold Attorney General Barr, Secretary of Laws Don McGahn in contempt. They're going to be voting on that, I guess, today or something. It seems like they just rather play games here than get anything done. How serious is this?
If you're Attorney General Barr, I don't think you're too concerned. Don't forget the Republicans held Attorney General Holder in contempt of court. In contempt of Congress, and then he referred it to the Justice Department, which he was in charge of, and it didn't go any further. And really a referral from Congress to the Justice Department to potentially have a prosecution of these people isn't going to go anywhere. So this is all political gamesmanship. What we're seeing right now is Speaker Pelosi is trying to hold her caucus together. There are increasing calls from the far progressive members of her caucus to begin impeachment proceedings. We've seen that James Clyburn said that was going to happen. He since walked that back a little bit, the number 3 Democrat in the House. But what we know is that Democrats want to impeach this president. They don't want to continue working for the American people. They don't want to go and support a very simple piece of legislation, which Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin has put in place, which is called the Reciprocal Trade Act. And what that means, reciprocal tariffs, is very simple. It says, hey, if a country puts a 10% tariff on us, we put a 10% tariff on them, and it's even Steven. Either they can raise it to 100% or lower it to 0, but whatever they put on us, we'll put on them. That's a piece of legislation that Congressman Duffy has, that Senator Lindsey Graham is introducing in the Senate next week when they come back. And you would think that the Democrats would want to do that because there are 39 Democrat incumbents right now who are sitting in congressional districts that Barack Obama won during his last reelection, that President Trump also won. They need to get some progress done for the American people. And holding people like Don McGahn and Attorney General Barr and Wilbur Ross in contempt of Congress does nothing to further the agenda of the American people, does nothing to lower our taxes, rebuild infrastructure, allow health care across state lines, transparency like your previous guest was talking about. I think is a fantastic idea. Those are the things that Congress should be doing, but instead they're playing these political gamesmanship things like, hey, let's go hold these guys in contempt of Congress when they know, just like they know that impeachment won't go anywhere. They're doing this for the sheer sport of the political gamesmanship, and it's at the detriment of the American people.
Boy, that is so spot on, Corey. The Democrats, when you look at their entire agenda, they're getting absolutely nothing done. I just had Abigail Spanberger on, and there's a lot about Abigail that, she's very qualified. She's a very intelligent congresswoman. As you know, she's from Central Virginia. She beat Dave Brat in 2018. But I don't know how you get reelected in a Trump district when you fail to get anything done with the Democratic leadership they have there. You look at what they're working on today. An amnesty bill for everybody, 2.5 million. They're doing nothing to address the crisis at the border. They're criticizing the president on his Mexico tariff plan, which is the only thing that got the Mexican government to the table to try to stop this invasion of millions of people coming over the border, 300,000 a month. They've done nothing on infrastructure. Now they want to subpoena half the administration, and then they're grappling with impeachment. Exactly what of these things are benefiting one American worker? I don't get where they're going with this.
John, we're going to see Nancy Pelosi not only be the first female Speaker of the House on 2 separate occasions, but very likely the first Speaker of the House who has lost her majorities on 2 separate occasions, because this is where this is going. And what Nancy Pelosi understands, and I said this last night, she understands that being the Speaker is a much better position than being the minority leader. But her membership is so far to the left that she feels obligated of giving them the opportunity to simply go after Trump and go after the members of his administration, and that's what she's allowing them to do. I actually heard, if you can believe it, Adam Schiff say he wasn't sure if impeachment was the right thing for the country because he knew that the Senate would never convict. Because what Adam Schiff knows is he has significantly more influence as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee than he does as the ranking member. But these rank-and-file Democrats, all they want to do is go after Trump and his administration. They don't care about helping the American people. And she is one of those 39 members of Congress I just referenced who are in very difficult districts. Donald Trump on the ballot next year is going to make sure that his people are turning back out, not just the people who supported him in 2016 when I was running the campaign, but the people who have benefited from the Trump economy, which means the lowest unemployment for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and women ever recorded. We've got more people working today than ever in the history of our country. Small businesses are growing. Big businesses are growing. There is more economic freedom now than ever. Those people who didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016 are going to turn out in massive numbers, and the Democrats should be scared to death because they have nothing to run on for their agenda of accomplishments for the 2 years that they controlled the House of Representatives. The only thing that they're going to be able to run on is we are the anti-Donald Trump party, but they're not putting ideas forward, and I think you're going to see that from the top of the ticket, whether it's Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, all the way down to the very local level where these Democrats are losing on a regular basis because they have no agenda.
Corey, I think that is spot on. I mean, you try to, even when I have the Democrats on, I've got Bobby Scott on tomorrow. I had Mark Warner and Tim Kaine on last week, just trying to understand what is your agenda going forward, and they don't really have one. I mean, I think they would. I think there's a lot of moderate Democrats that would prefer to have one, like infrastructure and prescription drugs and better education and things of that nature. But they're engulfed by the left-wing progressives in their party, and they just have nowhere to go. As a result, any serious policy proposals are drowned out. Like, for instance, today, I mean, they're voting on an amnesty bill, which is dead on arrival in the Senate. Nobody's going to vote for that, and the president would veto it. Why not get legislation done that would actually help solve the crisis at the border? Instead, they want amnesty, which is an additional incentive, which is just going to exacerbate things at the border. I mean, it defies all logic, Corey.
John, it only defies logic if you believe that they actually want to solve the problem. I don't believe that. I don't believe the Democrats have any vested interest in solving the immigration debate and solving the immigration problem that continues to happen at our southern border. They love this problem. They think that it is hurting Donald Trump, and that's probably why they wanted Donald Trump to roll out this immigration plan, and so to hold him accountable. But what he did when he rolled out his immigration plan was very clear. What he said was, hey, let's have a merit-based system. Let's make sure that the people who are coming here are the best for our country, and not just because you've got a blood relative who's living here or your cousin's father's second relative's dog came 35 years ago, you get to come too. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so the Democrats don't want to look at a serious immigration reform proposal because it hurts them. And so they want to play politics. And the American people are really smart. I say it all the time. They can see through these games and these charades, and that will be evident at the ballot box come November of 2020.
Corey, you look at the number of Democrats that are up. I think there was 19 that are up that won in districts that President Trump carried in 2016. That you look at those districts and the results he get, he's going to carry them again, only bigger. I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans get halfway decent candidates. They ran the table on that. So I think you're right. I mean, the odds of the Democrats keeping the House now are dwindling by the day. But I want to get to the president's re-election campaign. I know that you're going to be a big part of that. Hopefully I will also. I think he's going to win bigger than ever. Let's talk about a couple of the states that are going to get in play as battleground states in 2020 that were not necessarily looked at in 2016. What are some of them? And let's start with New Hampshire.
New Hampshire is a great opportunity for us. Obviously, is a state that has historically gone back and forth. George Bush won it in his second go-around in 2004. Barack Obama won it. Donald Trump lost the state of New Hampshire by about 2,700 total votes. Kelly Ayotte, who was the incumbent U.S. Senator there, lost her re-election campaign by about 700 votes. She campaigned against the ticket, against the Trump-Pence ticket, and it probably cost both Trump and Ayotte, their election victories in New Hampshire. That being said, Steve Stepanak, who was our state chairman in the campaign in 2016, is now the state committee chairman. And so we've got a full complement of support behind Donald Trump in New Hampshire. It's a state I know very well. And another important factor, the Republican governor, Governor Chris Sununu, they actually worked to change the way you vote in New Hampshire. So up until this coming election, John, it used to be that if you felt like a New Hampshire resident on the day of the election, you could actually show up and cast a ballot, regardless of where your legal residence was. And to be fair, Joe Biden's daughter did exactly that 6 years ago. So, 3 years ago, she just showed up, decided, hey, I've been in New Hampshire for 2 weeks. I feel like a resident. I'm going to go vote. And it was perfectly legal. That has now changed. And now says, if you can believe it, you actually have to be a resident of the state of New Hampshire to actually vote in the New Hampshire elections. Mm-hmm. So that is a benefit to Donald Trump, so that you don't have a series of people coming across the border from Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, pouring into New Hampshire, where most of the time those states aren't competitive, and voting in New Hampshire. That's a benefit. So that's number one, top priority. It's 4 electoral votes, and it could move the needle. You know, you look at the state of Maine, the 2nd District, Donald Trump won that. It's 1 electoral vote. I think that is back in play, even though Bruce Poliquin lost that re-election. In 2018, it's an area of the state that's very rural but understands the trade issue very well, and I think Trump is going to win there again. Look at the state of Nevada. It is a state that is changing dramatically.
Right.
Paul Laxalt, who was the former attorney general, lost that race for governor last time. Dean Heller lost that race because Donald Trump wasn't on the ticket. It has an increasing Hispanic population, and if you look at what Donald Trump's been able to do in the Hispanic community by giving them more economic opportunity and making sure that more Hispanics are working today than ever in the history of our country, there's a potential opportunity there. It's also a very rural state. And once you get outside of Clark County, which is Las Vegas proper, the state becomes much more conservative. So more opportunities there. And then the last state where I think there's some opportunities, although it's clearly further down, would be the state of New Mexico. Again, huge influx of Hispanic speakers there. They understand the border crisis very, very well, and they understand what illegal immigration is doing to the resources of that state and the pressure it's putting on their hospitals, first responders, et cetera. And so if they want someone who's going to be tough on the border, you know, they've got now a far-left liberal governor in New Mexico, and so there's a clear choice for them. I think if you look at those 3 states in that order, New Hampshire as a pickup, potentially Nevada as a pickup, and then ultimately New Mexico as a place to expand the map, you would see an opportunity to win in places that could be critical if Donald Trump were to not be as successful in the Rust Belt as he was the last election, meaning if he lost Wisconsin, which would be 10 votes, or potentially, Michigan, you really have a difficult time if you lose Pennsylvania and one of the others. So, this campaign is going to expand the map. We're going to put the Democrats on the defense for their policies, and if that's the case, this president is better than anybody by being on the offense.
Can we make Virginia competitive?
Look, we're going to know that answer in November of this year. As you know better than anybody, there's a series of elections in November in Virginia this year, and we're going to have to see. It has, the state has turned dramatically, and the reason for that is just the massive amount of government employees who make their living on the federal government, who, live in the northern part of the state. They are so focused on the government and the largesse of the government that they don't have any desire, by and large, to see a president come in and cut the size of government, cut regulations, and help small business owners. So, look, the state has changed dramatically, and I think it's going to depend if Terry McAuliffe is back on the ticket.
Right.
Makes it a very difficult race.
John Fredericks Radio Network, thanks for being with us. Corey Lewandowski, always great to have you, Corey. Great insight. Here's what I got out of it. You're going to win New Hampshire, and you're going to win New Mexico, and you got a heck of a shot in Nevada. Right? That's my take. Corey, thanks for being with us, man. Thank you.
Thank you, John.